everyone. How are you? Great. We're here before the snow, and I want you to remember me tonight as the chair of the board of the Black History Museum, and this is a fabulous celebration in recognition of Black History Month. We want to welcome you to tonight's historic event as we honor members of the first African American majority members of City Council, and that's quite a feat. I was just moving to Richmond from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when all this was taking place. Any case, I'm glad I'm here. This is the perfect venue, isn't it? This is in historic Jackson Ward. Let's applaud for that. And actually, I know of no other greater venue than this except the Black History Museum itself. How great it is that we are celebrating at the Hippodrome, an icon in the Jackson Ward community, very much a part of our history as a people. And again, it's just blocks away from the Black History Museum. I am always delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to be in such a historic place to celebrate such a historic moment. And I would say that it is a moment, but it's a moment that'll go on to forever. And we should all be really very proud of that. And I think that for me as an MC, I feel really very honored that I can even do this. You know, oftentimes you're asked to do programs like this, be the MC or whatever, but it's very seldom that you know all the honorees. I happen to know all of them, and each of them has a place in my heart, and I'm sure your heart too, but even more than that, they have a place in our history, and particularly Richmond. We need to applaud all of them for what they've done for us as individuals, but what they have done for Richmond. And I know that they've had some help around the way, along the way, but I would say the spirits of those folks that have helped them, they're probably running wild today because they too were partners in making such a big difference. They would say that this is a wonderful way to recognize all that has been done, but none of them would really want to take the credit. They weren't credit-taking people. They were people who came together to work together to make things happen, and we should be proud of that too. And I think they would say that we are in this to really make a difference. I like Senator Marsh's statement, and I just read this recently, and I think it really sets the stage for what else we have to do. And he said, he indicates that we've made progress, but we haven't solved the problem. And I think that says much. And we need to applaud him for making a statement like that. And we also need to applaud our mayor, who recognizes that we still have problems. He has really stepped forward in a big way to look at poverty, which is really the root cause of a lot of what goes on here. So I'm supposed to help set the stage, but the stage has already been set. But I do want you to relax this evening, enjoy what you hear, take it home with you. And we always have to remember that we need to dream big, think big, and act big. We have covered a lot of ground, and we still have a lot of ground to cover. So please keep that in mind. Okay. For those of you who don't know, I do a lot of facilitation, so I always make the crowd clap in case they don't clap for me. I already have something built in. Okay. All right. Now, we're really honored that we have the great privilege, or I have the great privilege, to introduce Michelle Mosby, our president of Richmond City Council. And we are very proud of Michelle and all of her accomplishments. She serves as the councilwoman for the 9th District. She was recently elected as president of City Council, as you all know. But as important, she is another first. She's the first African-American woman to serve in that capacity. So let's cheer her on. And so with that, Ms. President, I welcome you to the podium.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Richmond City Council, and as the first African-American woman elected as Richmond City Council President, I am elated to bring you greetings on this occasion. While the advancement that took place for me is noteworthy, it pales in comparison to the first African-American majority we celebrate here tonight. Councilors Chuck Richardson, Willie Dale, Claudette Black McDaniel, Walter Kinney, and of course, Senator Henry Marsh. This five reflects the best of the best, the brightest of the brightest, the strongest of the strongest, and the fiercest of the fiercest. They are unequivocally and without a doubt pioneers of this great city, and they represented the first time a southern city elected an African-American majority to govern their city. Every single one, yes, every single one of us stand on their broad shoulders. And we hope tonight we can offer a mere token of our appreciation for their leadership, for their courage, and for the sacrifices that they made. We publicly thank them. For all of us who have come out tonight to celebrate with them and to appreciate them, let us ever be mindful as we move forward to recapture some of the unity and spirit that made their historic accomplishments more than just a dream, but let's make them a reality. Thank you.
We thank you very much for those remarks and coming from yet another leader in our community. It gives me a great honor to introduce the Honorable Dwight C. Jones. I'm going to say this because I always say it. I've known him longer than anyone in this room. We were both from Pennsylvania. He was from Philadelphia. I was from Pittsburgh. I had an aunt that used to say to her son, who was one of Dwight's friends, "Why can't you be like Dwight? He is such an orator. He knows how to do that." And so Jan has tried for his entire life, but I don't think he's still measured up. But in any case, I want to really get on to something more serious and to say it's because of our mayor that we're here tonight. He introduced the ordinance, and others joined with him. So let's give him a round of applause at the outset. I've always admired his willingness to stand up and stand for matters and causes that really make a difference in where we work, where we learn, where we come together to solve some really serious problems, challenges, and opportunities in our community. I've always admired him as well because he showcases our neighborhoods, our structures, our downtown, many other treasures that we have in our community, but most of all, he stands up and stands for people who have done great things. And tonight, we have that distinct honor to hear him recognize some of the leaders that are here. And I don't know if you all have noticed what we have here in terms of the recognition. This sign is just absolutely grand, and it's a showstopper. And I don't know who designed this, but we need to give them a round of applause, too. Okay. I also wanted to thank the mayor for just not hanging in there. Where is he? Oh, here he is right here. Oh, he wants me to sit down. All right. I would say I just want to thank him for just not hanging in there and hanging on, and that he's always trying to make a difference. He's leading the way on many fronts, Let's cheer him on. Ladies and gentlemen, our mayor, the Honorable Dwight C. Jones.
Thank you, Marilyn, and good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here tonight. This is a great night for the city of Richmond, one I've looked forward to for many, many years, something that I wanted to see happen 6 years ago when I first became mayor. Took us 6 years to get it done, so we're happy to be here tonight to celebrate these wonderful individuals, these champions, these courageous pioneers, these men and women who have changed the trajectory of our city, and these men and women upon whose shoulders we stand. And we think that this is an appropriate way to bring Black History Month to a close, to represent our heroes and heroines right here in the city of Richmond tonight. They have really provided trailblazing, pioneering ways for us to follow. We don't have the opportunity tonight to talk about 12 Years a Slave or Selma, but we can tell our own story. And our story is that we have had individuals who have absolutely provided the paradigm upon which we can follow in the days that are to come. The Richmond Times-Dispatch had an article in the paper today, and they were right this time. The title of that article was "Remember an Era of Change for Richmond." And tonight, that's what we do. We remember an era of change for Richmond. And these individuals were agents of change, and we're here to honor them tonight because we know that they deserve a place in history, but they demand a place in history, and our children and our children's children need to know who they are. 1977 is a year that will go down as a year that changed the direction of our city. The election of these individuals after 7 years without an election is something that needs to be written about. I talked to Chuck Richardson tonight. He's trying to write something down, but I think it would be an absolute disgrace if we don't write this history so that generations unborn will know exactly what took place with these individuals that we honor tonight. The new majority that was elected, the first time in Richmond's history, we come to honor them tonight. We come not to give a history lesson because these are all walking history lessons. And listen to this, isn't it good, or let me just slip into my other role, isn't God good that they are all able to be here tonight, with the exception of Claudette, to see this honor and to receive this honor. And for that, we are grateful to God for that. And so these men and women have broken through barriers, and they rejected a subordinate political structure, and we are reaping the benefits of that even today. And so we're going to have these street signs, and these are the actual street signs that will be put up tomorrow, whether it snows or not. These street signs will be put up honoring Willie Dell, Chuck Richardson, Claudette Black McDaniel, Walter Kenny, and Henry Marsh. Let's give them all a round of applause. And we're going to invite each of them to come and say a word. And now all of them are talkative individuals, but this is their night, and so we're not going to put any time constraints on them, but I might tap you on the shoulder if you go too long. But we're delighted to have them tonight, and we're going to ask each of them to come and say a word about their journey and to make an expression this evening. And so we're going to begin tonight with Senator Henry Marsh. And this is a replica of the sign that will be hung on the street post in front of the house. And this is given to you, to Henry L. Marsh, in recognition to the Honorable Henry L. Marsh III as a member of the first African-American majority elected to Richmond City Council. Congratulations, Henry.
Good evening. I want to disagree with one thing the mayor said. I appreciate what he did and what the council did, but he said we're going to bring a close to Black History Month. Black History Month will never be closed again in Richmond or anywhere else. This is the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, of many other things, and something has been started in America concerning Black history. It will never be closed again. We started off with Black History Week, now Black History Month, and it's going to be Black History everything from now on. I really want to express my appreciation and others of what the mayor proposed and what council unanimously adopted. I've been following council lately, and they don't unanimously vote for too many things. And I appreciate the unanimous vote. It means a lot. None of us ran for city council to get praise or acclamation. In fact, we've gotten very little during the time that I've been involved, and that's all right. But I think at the time that the nation is awakening because of Selma and 12 Years a Slave and what law enforcement is doing in some places and what the community is doing in reaction, something is awakening in America and in Richmond. So I suggest we do away with Black History Month and have Black history every time we think. You know, there was a time when they had public lynchings in Richmond, not too long ago. They celebrated public lynchings, mobs of people. And a lot of the people they lynched were innocent. And when I got to the General Assembly, there's a 30-day rule that Virginia was the only state the last state to get rid of it. Even if you could prove you were actually innocent. If it happened 31 days after you could prove it, you had to suffer the penalty. I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. It was a remnant of the Byrd machine. And I started putting in papers to change it. And it took years and years and years. When DNA started coming in, that's when they finally recognized that they better do something, because we could prove that people were innocent. To think about that, hundreds of people, innocent people, not only were they prosecuted and convicted, they were lynched in the streets of Richmond in public lynchings. And the lynchings were celebrated by crowds of people, cheering crowds. Now, I didn't stand up to talk about the horrors we experienced, but when you study Black history, don't start with 1977. Go back and find out what happened in Richmond. We stepped in at a time that things were changing around the country. And we didn't do it for money. We didn't do it for fame or recognition. We did it because it had to be done. I was raised by my parents. My father was a great mentor for me. Oliver Hill and Sam Tucker were mentors for me. Ray Boone encouraged them to push me into public service. And I've enjoyed every moment I've spent. I just want to say one thing about the team, because everything we did was because of the team. One person couldn't do anything, but 5 of us together could do everything. And we were tested, we were tried, and we met the test. We could have gotten violent. We could have reached out and struck back at people who didn't like us. But we did it the Christian way. We offered the hand of friendship and cooperation. And when that was rejected, we still did that because that was the best way. It was our form of nonviolence. And it's working. You notice I say it's working because it hasn't worked yet, despite the mayor's outstanding efforts. Many of the things the mayor has done, I said to myself, I wish I had done that, but I couldn't have because the conditions weren't right. I just mentioned one thing. None of the department heads in the city government, none was African American. I mean, and that didn't change for a while until we got a city manager who was not working for the other folks. And we were very gracious. There were a whole lot of things that were being done wrong. And we called the manager in and said, look, Bill, this isn't working. We want to make a change. Now, we had the right to make a change without saying anything to him. But we felt that maybe he couldn't work for us for some reasons. There was something wrong with us. He might fit in somewhere else. He said, how long do I have? I said, take a reasonable amount of time. We want to hurry up and make a change. He ran to the other folk, and they thought they would use that to get rid of all of us. But it backfired. There were forces in the community that joined with us, and eventually the newspaper made one mistake. They said he resigned. He didn't resign. He was fired. And I don't take any pride in that. But thanks to T. Justin Moore, we agreed to do something to ease the transition, and it worked for a while. And I said, I'm not going to say anymore because I'm writing a detailed memoir. I've gotten 250 pages already. I was in the room when I wasn't seen, apparently, the invisible man. I saw everything, I heard everything. And I'm not doing anything to embarrass anyone, but I'm going to tell the truth. So you're going to have to write, you're going to have to get the memoir. But something has been started in America that has to be finished. And I like community policing, but for the police forces, and I say forces, a lot of them, to become policeman, judge, jury, executioner, that can't happen. So we are part of that change, and most of the people who stirred up about it aren't African American, because they know that it may be us now, but it's going to be them later. So I'm proud to be a part of the council that got the city on the right path. But I'm still a part of the city that's going to continue to make sure that the city gets all the way on the right path. So all of us should be glad we have a city that is pushing community policing, hiring police officers who believe in involving the community, because that's the only way we're going to get through this. That we're trying to eliminate poverty, or at least reduce it to the point where the rest of the people can survive and enjoy. This is a wonderful thing we're doing. Not because we need the credit, but the community needs to know that Black history is here to stay, and we're going to make sure that we continue to make progress. I just have to say that people who aren't here, like Curtis Holt, W. Lester Banks, Ray Boone, Bill Thornton, John Howlett, and many, many others, their spirit is in this room. And there are thousands of people who voted and worked for years and never saw the benefit. They just had the satisfaction of knowing that their representatives were elected. And we have to make sure that they didn't sacrifice and die in vain. The right to equal education started all this, but the right to vote will finish it. And we have to insist that all persons who desire to vote, vote, and that their votes are counted. So I'm proud to be a part of this change that is in process, but it's not over. And as long as I'm alive, I will make sure that Oliver's dream and Tucker's dream and the dream of those of us who want equality is fulfilled. S.W. Tucker, one of my mentors, said this. He said, the thirst for equality is insatiable. Once it catches you, it consumes you. And he gave his life fighting to make sure that we had equality. Oliver Hill was the greatest leader a group of people ever had. He and I didn't agree on everything, but despite our disagreements, we respected each other. He never had a cross thought about me, even though I opposed him publicly, because he knew that I was more anxious to get to where we were going than he was. I wasn't used to moving too slow. And some people on my team pushed me even harder. But it was a wonderful thing we started. And now those of us who are still alive will have to finish it. Thank you.
We want to recognize elected officials that are present. Let me just recognize members of City Council who are here, because this was a joint effort between the mayor and the City Council. You've seen President Michelle Mosby, Councilwoman Cynthia Newbill, and Councilman John Belials. Is he still here? There, back there. Also want to recognize Delegate Betsy Carr, who came in. Betsy. Delegate Joe Preston from Petersburg. LeVar Stoney, the Secretary of the Commonwealth back there. Dr. Deetra Trent, Deputy Secretary of Education. She's here. And Dr. Derek Jones from the school board. Let's give all of our elected officials a round of applause. The next person we honor tonight is Willie J. Dell, and Willie Dell gets an avenue. Come on, Willie. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is my pleasure to be here, and I am overwhelmed with gratitude. Mr. Mayor and members of council, thank you. I had no idea. Let me back up a little bit. I am so proud that I am able to reach out and grab the hand of a young man who helps me up the steps. I got a bad left knee. I got a bad right arm, shoulder. And so I'm always fearful that I might not make it. But when there is something like a bookend that holds you up, I want to recognize that and say thank you. Now, backing up even further, years ago, I was born in a little country town, Gettysburg, North Carolina. There was not a street, less more a sidewalk. But my mama, God bless and rest her soul, moved to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, moved into a neighborhood that didn't have sidewalk. My mama, who couldn't read, even if you put her name in neon lights, recognized the value of an education. And so my mama worked, and I went to St. Aug College. I went to St. Aug because I was a member of St. James Baptist Church in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I was a member of a church that the pastor talked about NAACP. I was a member of a church where a young lady named Betty Jean Mitchell came one day to talk about her mission work in Africa. And I knew I wanted to be like that. I went to St. Aug because I had a teacher, Esmeralda Hawkins, who went to St. Aug. I followed her. And when I left St. Aug, she got me another scholarship. I went to school 4 years on a scholarship. She got me another scholarship to go to Howard because she went to Howard. When I finished, I had a roommate named Carolina Alexander who lived over in your neighborhood, Chuck, and on Shepherd Street, Carolina Alexandra. And that's how I got to Richmond. There was a job available. I came to Richmond because of 3 hours, reading, writing, and the road to Richmond. Ended up working at the welfare department where now City Hall sits. I'm just bringing you up the street that I have been to and through and on. And in that process, I grew. I grew because I continued to go to a church. The reason why I'm on city council because Jim Carpenter was my pastor at All Souls Presbyterian Church. And Jim decided to become a missionary to Quito, Ecuador. And Jim and Henry came to my house and said, Jim said that you were interested in city council. Would you run? It just so happened he had been to several persons before me, all guys, and they turned him down. What God has for you, it is for you. And so when he came in and asked me, I said no. I said no because I don't speak too clearly. I have a southern accent. I leave off the endings of some words I've been told. And you sound so colored. I'm serious. And then I know that if things tick me off, I'm gonna have to have my say. I'm like the U.S. Marine. If you say something to me and this is my piece of ground, I'm gonna defend it. And so I talked to Nathan. He said, well, honey, that's my husband, Nathan. Honey, if that's what you want to do, I will help you. I am so grateful that Nathan named me a gift from God. I got mine. If God don't give me nothing else, I've been blessed. Come this June, we will have been married 50 years. And I just want to say thank you. I got to serve, and then when I had to stand up and say something, I stuttered, I stammered, and left endings off in words. Who do you go to help you to speak? Bless me, I had a husband who was a preacher, and they liked talking. So my first speech, my husband helped me write it, and then I had chutzpah. That's a nice Jewish word for balls. I had the chutzpah to stand up and give it, and people thought I was dynamite, and from that point on, I acted as if I was. God is good. The most fascinating thing that happened during that time was the fact that I grew up Negro, colored, and then the revolution came and I washed my hair, and that did it for me. All of a sudden, I was black and beautiful, started wearing my Afro clothes, and just thought I had it going on. It was a creative time, and it was good. It was really a good time. I know now you saying that you standing on the shoulders. I felt during that time people had walked inside and was tap dancing on my heart. You got nasty letters and phone calls. I didn't keep any of that stuff. I said yesterday, I wish I had her, so you could understand it was not all peaches and cream and easy. Because anytime you go up against the system, you're going for change. People don't like change. Change is hard. Even if it's good and right and fitting and proper, it's hard. Nell Pusey, when I called her to say, what do I do in terms of having some staff help? She said, I don't have that problem. I use my husband's secretary. Well, I had a problem. And so when I took my chair and moved into City Hall, because before then, we didn't have office, we didn't have secretary, we didn't have anything. You go down there on Monday nights and you had your meeting and that was it. And people said I was militant just because I wanted to serve. I wasn't militant, but I learned how. You did say we like talking. I just really want to say thank you. Thank you. When I come into your presence, each one of your presence,
Next, we want to honor Claudette Black McDaniel posthumously. She was my councilperson in the 8th District. She appointed me to the school board, and that began my journey in public life. And her daughter is here tonight, Claudine, who's going to speak on her behalf. Claudine?
Good evening. Good evening. This is an honor to speak at a historic occasion for my mother. I would like to first thank Mayor Jones for being my mother's first campaign manager. And she used to always tell me to be a leader, don't be a follower. And she was a great leader in the 8th District for 13 years. I remember as a kid, I would want to hang out with my mom in the evenings. And a lot of times she would tell me, oh, well, I have to go to the city council meeting on Monday. And it seemed like those city council meetings would last all night. Just wait for her. She would get home sometimes around 12 o'clock, 1 in the morning, and at that time I was asleep because I had to go to school the next day. But I just never imagined this historic event, her being on the first African-American city council for the city of Richmond. I know she's smiling on all of us right now. I know she's just elated that there's a street being named after her. And I'm just sure she's smiling on each and every one of you all right now, and I just would like to thank you.
And our next honoree became mayor after city council, Mayor Walter Kinney, and we're going to have his daughter to come and speak on his behalf. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good evening. This is a wonderful occasion, and I am just so happy for all the persons who are being honored, especially my dad. And before I came up here, you know, Mayor Jones was talking about how the city council persons like to talk. Well, I whispered to Dad, I said, Dad, I'm going up there to speak for you. And I had written myself some notes because with all the history that you all know, I just have to go by what I know and what we grew up on. And I think he was trying to take my paper from me. So I would like to thank Mayor Jones and the City Council for this wonderful honor. We're talking about a man who loves his city. He was dedicated, still is dedicated, even though he has some health challenges. I tried to explain to him today, I said, you're going to see some of your great friends. And I was so happy that Mr. Towns says, you know, your father remembered me. And they reflected back on some things. So I'm just so happy for him to be able to be here tonight. We're talking about someone who cared about the community, about the city, his church, and thinking about and reflecting back on when my brother, my sister, and I were little children, along with the grandkids. We used to wait for, like the young lady said before this, wait for my dad to come home. We'd watch city council on TV, and they used to have some really, really exciting meetings. And we used to come home and say, Daddy, you should have calmed down a little bit. But y'all know Walter Kenny, he is not going to calm down. Other things that he liked, besides his city, he enjoys Richmond Public Schools. He enjoyed visiting schools. He was a very visible person, very focused, and a hard worker. He also loved history. He served on the council for a number of years, and he enjoyed it. And I was sitting there in my seat thinking of when my oldest daughter was a little girl. I have a girlfriend who was talking to Jessica one day, and she said, so Jessica told her, Jessica's probably going to act like she don't remember this. She said, I need to call my granddaddy. I know his private number. My friend reminds me of that to this day. We're talking about a person who's a good father, a good husband. He taught us responsibility. He taught us to be organized. He taught us to have a vision. And he had high expectations of us as he had high expectations of himself and his family. He was a role model who always, as I stated, had a vision and was focused. And what I like to do, I was sitting there writing quick notes. Didn't go into politics, but I went into education. I guess kind of related, huh, Dr. Jones? Mayor Jones? All right. W, he's a willing person. A, he's been always there for us. L, loving his family and his city. T, a talker. E, he always tells us about enjoying life. R, very resilient. I had to actually make a speech at his church on Sunday, and in that speech, I had pulled some things that he used to always talk to us about, and one of the things, and he still says this to this day, there were a number of cities that my father had the opportunity to visit because of the different things that he did on city council, and he had been to so many different countries just sharing Richmond's history and Richmond's story. So he's always telling people, I'm the mayor. And I've been around the world. And you know, during his stays in the hospital, all the nurses would say, yes, he's the mayor. And he would tell us he's been around the world. Lastly, I would like to say, too, I guess my brother and sister remember this, too. We used to go on a campaign trail with Dad. We would go through the neighborhood, and we would make phone calls and stuff envelopes and, you know, wear stickers, and, you know, I reflect back on the team that he worked with, who are the persons that are being represented today. They were all a very close-knit group. So to each of you, I would like to say thank you and good luck, and I cannot wait until that sign is put up.
Thank you, Wilma. Wonderful job. Wonderful job. And last, but of course not least, bringing up the rear, Chuck Richardson.
You know, 35 years ago, I would have never dreamed that anything of this magnitude would have occurred where I would have had a street or any type of honor bestowed upon me for having lasted this long. And when I look back, I can only say that that I have been really blessed beyond measure. And I see people now who take so many things for granted. And I can truly say that having been associated with Henry Marsh and Willie Dell and Claudette McDaniel and Walter Kenny, that my life was enriched just by knowing these four individuals. Because not often in life do you really get to meet really decent people. You know, we used to go on the National League of Cities Conference every year. And I used to travel with Walter all the time. And Walter Kenny, of all the things you might think or know, Walter Kennedy is a good man. I want you to know that, Walter. I don't know if he was ever the best traveler in the world. I don't know if he was ever the best mayor in the world or the best electioneer or the politician, but he was a good man. Henry Marsh was one of the best politicians. We could always rely on Henry. I don't care what it was. You know, when you are the first, you're lonesome because there are no paths to follow. We used to go to city council meetings, and every Monday night, 5 black people who had never tread the paths of wondering, what are these white people going to do to upset us? There was always a trap in the road. When you run a city for 300 years and one morning you wake up and the people that you used to whip and beat and hang and shoot for no reason all of a sudden run the house and you mad, there is a trap at every turn, and we knew it. Henry was our leader, sitting at the head of the desk, and every other Monday night when we went down there, we knew that Henry had to guide us through those treacherous waters. Thank God it's not like that anymore, but let me tell you, we was making a measly $6,000 a year. A year. And Henry found a way to raise it up to $200 little extra a month. Just $200 little more dollars a month. And a group of taxpayers sued us, took us to court, and after 4 or 5 years in court, they won, and we had to scrabble to find $10,000 and pay back. That was absurd. It was cruel. Henry, it was your fault. But we had a rule. It was illegal for us to meet. It was illegal. You cannot meet behind closed doors without notifying the public. There is no way on God's earth that we could have met and run the city without having some kind of plan in advance. That's absurd. They used to do it, and we knew we had to do it. So we called it cocktails. I didn't know what cocktails was at first. Because I was into something else. I didn't drink. I hope you know what I mean. You know, we all have to do what we have to do to get through. Thank God I was delivered from that mess. We had cocktails, and we would fuss, argue, and fight, but Henry was our leader, and we had one rule. No matter what we did behind them closed doors, when we came out, we was together. Because we knew that the only thing new under the sun was black folk who stuck together. And for 5 golden years, that was the only thing we had going for us in Richmond, was 5 black folk who stuck together, and we were winning for that reason alone. And it lasted. And we got a lot accomplished. That unity alone delivered us. But you know what? The shepherds change, but the flock remained the same. And as long as we were true to you, you were true to us. And I learned that And people say, Chuck, how do you get elected all the time in spite of the stuff you do? Because I never put anybody ahead of the flock. I knew that if I worked for the flock would work for me. And Willie said to me one night, I had 100 and some people down in the council. She said, Chuck, how do you get all these people blind, crippled, and crazy to come down here for you? And I said, Willie, because I come through for them. If you want somebody to help you, you got to help them. I used to get buses to go out and pick them up, and if you get a bus for them, all you got to do is get on it. And they'd come to the council meetings. But you know, when those of us who ran for council in 1977, you know, we thought we had won a long and perilous struggle that culminated with the black majority members of city council in 1977. And it took over the capital of the former capital of the Confederacy. And I don't mean to diminish the significance of this election and what we celebrate tonight, but I think we may miss a greater significance of what happened then. Because it really wasn't so much that we were black that made the difference. A greater significance was not that the color of our skin that covered the inner parts of us. The greater significance was our hearts that had been changed for having to live in a city that was segregated. It wasn't so much that our origins was in Africa, but that we had existed in a city that was subjected to racism, bigotry, and prejudice, that we had to live so long subjected to the kind of rules of inhumane treatment, that we had to live the lives of half of human being lives, that we were subjected to the humiliation, the embarrassment, the indignities that Henry spoke of, being beaten at whim, hung at will, whipped, your children seeing you embarrassed. You can't go into a water fountain. You couldn't go into the city hall unless you were a janitor or an elevator operator. When you have lived under those conditions and subjected to those things, it changed your heart, no matter the color of your skin. And that was the major difference, who we became as a result of living in a city like that. That was the significance. We became more compassionate. We became more caring. We became a race of people that were willing to go to any means to seek that justice, to listen to anyone, no matter what station, no matter what their place in life was, no matter what they had been through. We were going to seek out justice, fairness, and it didn't matter about where you came from. That was the significance of what happened. Not that we were from Africa or that we were black, but what we had endured and what it made us as human beings. And that being black and who you became, it opened us up to understanding that no matter what your malady was, we learned that whether you are blind, disabled, we now have a president who is black. We now have people who have different sexual orientations that can live and love like all the rest of us. We now have people who are disabled, who don't have barriers that they have to face every day. We now have people who can't hear, who can't see, who now have rights, and the way is made for them not to be hidden away anymore. came because they have maladies like people who were black once had. And the issue now is not whether you're black or white, but whether you're right or wrong. That was the greater significance of our lesson. Now, had we known that 35 years ago, perhaps we could have done more. Perhaps. But what I do know, Walter, Henry, Willie, and Claudette, for our times, for our place, and with God's helping hand, we did the best we could. For your prayers, your patience, and remaining with us, I thank you.
Just before we leave, I want to recognize the presence of Shakira Vaughn, our Mayor's Youth Academy Youth Mayor. Where is Shakira? Is she still here? There she is. Madam Mayor. We want to thank you for being here tonight, and there's a light reception that has been prepared for you, and the bar is open. We hope that you will stay and congratulate our honorees. And now, to all of those persons who are being honored tonight, Willie, Henry, Walter, Chuck, and even Claudette as she looks down on us, let's all stand up and give a rousing applause of thanks for a job well done. We love you. And we thank you. Good night.